Good morning, everyone. I am just checking. It is now 09:32 in South Africa, Pretoria, and you are speaking with. My name is Dansile Mavimbela, and I work for the South African National Biodiversity Institute, which is SANBI, an entity of the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. We are based in Pretoria, and I also happen to be the Land Rehabilitation Society of Southern Africa Council member. I am hosting this web chat in collaboration with LaRSSA, SANBI, the Department of Agriculture National, the Agricultural Research Council, ARC, and we are really grateful that I already see we've got about 50 people that have joined us this morning, and we really appreciate that. And it's so very exciting today that we are going to be talking about things that are there in our everyday life, but we never get an opportunity to discuss them. I'm just gonna check quickly with my colleagues. Teresa, am I good to continue?
You are good to continue, Dansile.
Thank you. So we have three people, learned people, doctors, that will be talking to us today. If I may ask Teresa, if you can just beam the cover page of the web chat so that our participants can see the speakers today. So today's web chat is really about understanding pastoralism and rangeland in the South African context, and it is in celebration or in contribution towards what is being declared as the International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralists this year. So we've got 2026, which is declared officially by the United Nations General Assembly to be the year of International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, which is, we've got acronyms in our country, IYRP. So IYRP stands for that International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. So as we know that in 2020, the government of Mongolia, together with other 68 co-sponsoring countries, submitted a proposal to 2026 to be declared as the year of the IYRP 2026. And this also follows the resolution that was passed during the 76th session of the UN General Assembly, UNGA, in September. That was in 2021. And then the purpose of all of this was really around raising awareness on the importance of rangelands and pastoralists for livelihood, as well as to promote motivation and momentum that is necessary for the worldwide understanding of the importance of the rangeland to our global food security and environmental services. We all look at, when we look at South Africa, more than half of South Africa is rangelands biomes. So today's web chat, we're really seeking to provide the global as well as the Africa context and the Africa roadmap to the IYRP 2026 celebration, as well as unpacking how South Africans context to the IYRP celebration and how we can all contribute to this celebration. So without wasting more time, I want to introduce my speakers today. We've got in the midst, the first speaker will be Dr. I told you guys I'm talking to doctors today. I think I'm going to reintroduce myself. I'm Prof. Dansile Mavimbela. We've got Dr. Igshaan Samuels, who is a specialist researcher in rangeland ecology and pastoralism for the Agricultural Research Council in South Africa. He also worked in dryland pastoral landscapes and biodiversity ecosystems for almost 20 years. So his research really focuses on livestock mobility dynamics of pastoralism, climate change adaptation, and plant-animal interactions, particularly in the arid zones. And also he has led several international and national projects under these themes. Dr. Samuel is the global co-chair of the Global Alliance for the United Nations declared International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists in 2026. He is also the vice chairperson of the International Rangeland Congress, continuing this committee. So I'm going to hand over to you, Doctor. Do you want me to beam your presentation from my side? You are muted, Doctor.
Okay, let me try. Can I try to share it from my side? And if it doesn't work,
that's
then
perfect.
we'll do that.
Yes, thank you. Over
Okay,
to
good.
you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, colleagues. Just let me know if you can see my presentation.
Yes, we can see it, and it's on presentation mode. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here to listen to what we're going to say about the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. So I'm Igshaan Samuels. I'm with the ARC in South Africa, and I'm also with the Global Alliance for Rangelands and Pastoralists. And I'm going to give you some overview on the IYRP, on the international year, and the roadmap in terms of how we got here and where we want to be. So just to give you some sort of context, we'll describe later in the presentations or later in the web chat about contextualizing rangelands in South Africa. But if you look at it globally, they say about rangeland directly support about 500 million people around the world, and 2 billion people are dependent on the products that pastoralism sort of produce. So it's the meat, it's the fiber, it's the wool, it's all these other ecosystem services that pastoralists produce. And also the products that livestock, the livestock products from pastoralism have high value protein and are rich in nutrients, so make a massive contribution towards food, nutritional and protein security, particularly on the African continent. And given that we are in this space of trying to mitigate climate change, rangelands do provide a credible source of carbon sinks, particularly the grasslands where the carbon are being stored under the ground. Rangelands are biodiversity hotspots without a doubt. If you look at it in South African context, the 75% of a country being rangelands, and most of these 23,000 or so plant species actually occur in rangelands in South Africa. So in terms of biodiversity, and you would obviously know about the biodiversity hotspots in the country that are of global concern. These are large parts of these are rangelands. So rangelands in itself are a massive contribution to the function of our planet, if I should put it like that, because over half of the planet is rangeland, and all these ecosystem services that contribute to the survival of humanity. So why was the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists proclaimed in 2026? I will just use the acronym IYRP, and I don't have to mention the whole name or the full name all the time. So the IYRP is not just a celebration. It's important that we also raise awareness and increase action towards protecting these valuable landscapes and also the livelihoods of the people. So pastoralism and rangeland in itself make massive contributions to the food security, but also I need to highlight it's not only food security, it's food sovereignty. People are able to produce their own food. That's very important. It makes contributions contrary to what you see in formal statistics. Pastoralism makes a massive contribution towards regional, towards local, national, and even household economies. It's often that pastoralists, the smallholder farmers, sell their animals to the feedlots, and the animals are being recorded from the feedlots. It's not being traced back to the communal farmers, for example, in South Africa. And then we deem that communal farmers are not being productive. But a lot of the animals actually end up in the feedlots, and then obviously sent to the abattoirs on that. So if you really trace back the livestock, you will see that these communal farmers make a lot of contributions towards the, to the agricultural GDP in the country. And obviously the importance of rangelands for the environment. Then there's these myths and misunderstandings that we want to break, that pastoralists are unproductive, they are backward, they are not being productive, they damage the environment, they cause degradation, and all of these things have been proven, scientifically proven, to be, I won't say wrong, but it's not accurate, So pastoralists are productive. I mean, if you look at a pastoralist herd, why are there not so many males in the herd? For example, you get 1 or 2 males, the bulls or the rams. So what do they do with the other males? They sell it, So they are being productive. They do not cause damage to the environment. I mean, we look at the restoration techniques about using animals and the herd effect and the crowding. These are actually entrenched in traditional pastoralism. These people have been doing it for hundreds, if not thousands of years. There's obviously the knowledge gap that we need to fill. As pastoral systems and rangelands evolve, there's always a need for updated information. And then we need these policies, science-based policies that needs to inform how should pastoral areas be managed, and obviously inform legislation, and not only in the country and throughout the world. And we need investment in these pastoral lands, but it has to be ethical. I mean, it's no use you invest in the land and you chase off all the people because you want to save the land, That's not ethical. We have to work with the people. So we want ethical investment and we want sustainable investment. So just to give you a short history of the IYRP, it was proclaimed for 2026, but the whole process actually started in 2008 at the IRC Congress in the IRC and the IGC conference in Hoho, China, 2008. It actually started there, but in 2016, this IYRP Support Group got established and things became really, it heated up and there's a lot of things to be done. And then in 2022, March 2022, it was proclaimed. And the United Nations General Assembly appointed the FAO as the lead UN agencies to implement the IYRP, and that's what Dr. Jemima Moeng will talk about later. And then besides the FAO agency, there's this global alliance that was actually driving the whole process for more than 10 years. Trying to get it proclaimed, trying to get support, trying to do a lot of groundwork, because rangelands in itself, it's not something that you can make impact into for just 1 year. So the work has been done for more than 10 years. So this is just the structure of the global alliance. So we have about 440 institutions globally that are part of the international support group, and 102 countries that have send in their support to the IYRP. So this is Global Alliance. On the left, it should be Global Alliance Secretariat, which I'm part of, and we manage this whole alliance, or this whole global alliance. But we have 10, 11 working groups and 11 regions as well. So we have sort of devolved our hierarchy in essence like that. So our global coordinating group is also part of the decision making. So we are massive alliance throughout the world. And these are just to your left, you will see we have 11 regions, and South Africa would fall into Eastern and Southern Africa region, and Dr. Finka will talk about it now. But in essence, these regions will look into issues of rangelands, into pastoralism and the animals that they keep. So these are the 11 working groups that we have. We have different teams, and these 11 working groups are what they basically do. They collate and analyze existing research, and then they do scientific reviews. They also write policy briefs. They have developed the key messages that the IYRP will utter every month, will put in their documents. We will maybe later see some examples of these key messages. And they're also there to stimulate engagement, and to research. A lot of collaborations, a lot of new partnerships have been formed within the Global Alliance in trying to, do participatory research, and obviously the advocacy work that these working groups are also doing to promote the objectives of the IYRP. So every month, and this we'll chat about it later, every month the IYRP, the Global Alliance, have identified a theme so that we can pay homage to the critical issues that are sort of pertaining to the Rangeland, but also so that we can align our key messages and our activities under one theme, so to make the sort of messages much more impactful. It's better if everyone, for example, talk about the same topic then, as opposed to hundreds of people talking about all sorts of different things at the same time. So we try to so we've developed these themes that we will focus on every month, but it doesn't mean that you can't do something else a different month. We want most of the people to focus on a specific theme for a specific month. And what I'm not going to show, but part of these themes, we also have an animal every month that we will celebrate. So currently it's about 16 different livestock species that are being kept by pastoralists globally, and we'd like to celebrate the diversity of animals as well, and I will chat about it later. And this regional support groups then interprets and implements these themes sort of at the regional context. Yeah. So this is just something brief that 2016 and it all started. So within these 5 strategies of what the Global Action Plan is based on, we had a lot of activities around these different themes, whether it was the annual meetings of the CELEP, it's a European Eastern African lobby for pastoralists, the SRM Society for Range Management, and its different fora, international multilateral agencies that we've started to engage with, trying to put IYRP on the agenda. We try to create, and facilitate knowledge building on all of research. There's the FAO Summer School that we have jointly with them, the Atlas that are actually currently being revised, the Global Rangeland Atlas. We are working towards global standards for rangeland products, and we hopefully it will be launched this year or sometime next year. And then also we've talked about policy investments, and slowly a lot of these multilateral agencies have assimilated, have thought about taking up rangelands and pastoralism into their thinking, and even if you look at it consciously or unconsciously, our recent legislation on the Protection and Development of Agricultural Land Act does actually directly contribute to the IYRP, because it gives protected status to rangelands. It's got 4 different categories of status for rangeland protection in South Africa. So in a way, there have been a lot of contribution towards protecting rangelands. And this is just my second last slide, and then I will pause, and then other speakers will say other things within that sort of topics, and then I will talk about theme 1 later. But these, as I mentioned, these are the 5 strategies that the Global Action Plan that we've developed last year in Rome, that the whole IYRP will focus on, and these are the 5 strategies. And then what we want to do is we want to give pastoralists a voice, so and this map can be updated, because we now have 17 or so regional pastoralist gatherings and 3 global ones. The global ones are written in black. The main one is the one in August in Mongolia, where representative of all these regional gatherings, because we had one last week, we had one in Nairobi for Africa, that we developed. What do African pastoralists want? What do they need? What are their hopes for the future? What are the advice they can give? Everyone will bring their declarations or call to action or memorandums or whatever they develop as an outcome or output of the gathering, that will take it to Mongolia, and then we will develop a collated document for the UN agencies, but also for the FAO, who's heading this whole process. So we have all these gatherings happening around the world, and some South Africans are partaking in some of these global gatherings, and we're fortunate to secure sponsorship for a few of them. So yeah, so this is basically what I just want to point out. So this is what we have done thus far, and the different gatherings that are happening. But there will be a closing ceremony and a final legacy report that we all have to contribute to at the end of the day. And when 2026 is done, we all recognize there is a lot of work still to be done when rangelands and pastoralism are concerned. So what we are going to do is we're going to now that we know the process of how to proclaim an international year, we are going to work towards proclaiming a decade for pastoralism and for rangelands, similarly to the decade of ecological restoration, because the value of pastoralism is basically for the existence of humanity. So we are going to do quite a lot of things after 2026, and we'll see if we can get a decade of action. I will leave it to here. I will continue later on, but I hope I gave you a broad overview of what the international year is all about. Thank you so much, Ansela.
Thank you so much, Dr. Igshaan. Dr. Igshaan will come back, colleagues, to unpack more broadly around the different themes, especially the theme for this this January, Feb. So I'm encouraging that colleagues, please put your questions under the Q&A, and then those that just joined us, welcome so much. Thank you for being with us, and please introduce yourself in the chat, your name and your organization, company or institution where you're from. As we go on, thank you so much, Dr. Samuels. As we go on, I am going to call on yet another doctor, as Prof. Dansile Mavimbela. Call on Dr. Moeng. Dr. Moeng is based in the Ministry of Agriculture at the South African Embassy in Rome. She represents South Africa in the international food and agriculture platforms, including the FAO and the WFP. She brings extensive experience in food security, pastoral livelihoods, and agricultural developments across Southern Africa. So I'm going to ask Dr. Moeng to come in and just also talk to us broadly about this work and what it means at that global vision. But then I don't want to limit her. So Dr. Moeng, please come in. And colleagues, I see there are colleagues with hands that are raised. May you please put your questions in the Q&A. Unless there's something burning, Nolwazi, I am not sure. Please put it in the chat, then we can deal with it while we hand over to Dr. Moeng. Come in, Doctor. Dr. Moeng, you are not going to be beaming a presentation, right?
Not, I will talk from the notes that I made,
Okay.
but I can just quickly
Okay.
greet the members on the camera.
Yes, please switch
If
on your
you
camera
permit.
if it's possible. Teresa, please put on our slide there. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I am as equally impressed by Dr. Samuel's presentation as I'm sure all of you are. And it is such a pleasure and honor, therefore, to be part of this initiative organized in partnership with the Land Rehabilitation Society of Southern Africa, LaRSSA, the National Department of Agriculture in South Africa, and the Agricultural Research Council, an entity of the Department of Agriculture. So as has already been said, this United Nations General Assembly has declared 2026 as the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. And this was a decision taken at an UN resolution, which has already been shared as promoted and submitted by Mongolia. Now, as we move towards 2026, which is the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists, we are called to re-examine landscapes and livelihoods that have too often remained invisible in global discourse, yet are absolutely central to our shared future. Dr. Samuels also emphasized this a lot. Today, allow me to humbly invite us to deepen our understanding of pastoralism and rangelands through the lens of Southern Africa and to recognize why 2026 matters, not just for pastoralists, but for all of us. This then leads me to share with you some of the achievements so far. As indicated earlier, the Food and Agriculture Organization, which we are working very closely with, are the co-leads in terms of coordination of this IYRP for short. A steering committee has been formed, and South Africa is the lead coordinator for the Africa Regional Group, and supported by Kenya as the alternate. Mongolia is the chairperson of the steering committee, which actually coordinates all the work globally around the IYRP, and Uruguay is the co-chairperson. This IYRP was launched on the margins of the 179th session of the FAO Council on Tuesday, the 2nd of December, 2027, which is the start date then, with April 2027 as supposed to be the official end date of the year. As indicated, there will still be activities proceeding beyond that. The working definitions have been consulted upon and agreed upon, as rangelands are lands dominated by grasses, grass-like plants, forbs, shrubs, and sometimes trees that are grazed or have the potential to be grazed by livestock and wildlife. Pastoralists are people whose livelihoods mainly rely on domesticated and semi-domesticated animals that graze and browse predominantly on rangelands with varying degrees of mobility. There are also further additional messages that have been agreed upon, and these I will not necessarily share. They can be shared, even they are there even on various documents. But again, I think we would want to also emphasize the importance of those 12 thematic areas that Dr. Samuels has also spoken to say those are actually going to be like a yardstick, and they will help guide the work and channel activities towards the activities in the build-up of this year. But why 2026 International Year matters, especially for us as South Africa and even globally? It is a global call to action to change narratives from seeing rangelands as empty or degraded to recognizing them as dynamic, productive, and valuable. To strengthen policy coherence in terms of aligning land, climate, biodiversity, and development policies with pastoral realities, as well as invest in people and systems by supporting pastoralist-led innovation services and institutions, especially for women and youth, and equally bridge science and indigenous knowledge, wherein we will need to combine research with generations of lived experience in rangeland management. Luckily, we are all mostly on this platform scientists, and we would want to bridge that gap between the indigenous knowledge and the scientific knowledge and promote regional and global solidarity, because rangelands and climate systems do not stop at national borders. They don't know the territories. They are actually cutting across. And again, pastoralism plays a role as a climate and biodiversity solution, because in an era of climate crisis like we are experiencing now, pastoralism offers solutions, not problems. Well-managed rangelands store significant amounts of carbon in soils. They support biodiversity and wildlife coexistence. They reduce the risk of catastrophic and land degradation, and lastly, enable rapid recovery after climate shocks. Pastoral mobility, often misunderstood by some of us, and maybe this is an opportunity for all of us to now then really understand it, remains one of the most effective climate adaptation strategies in variable environments. And Southern Africa provides powerful examples where pastoral systems are supported rather than constrained and enhance resilience, productivity, and sustainability. In the context of Southern Africa, we have Southern African rangelands being amongst the most ecologically diverse in the world. They support cattle, goats, sheep, and wildlife, transboundary ecosystems, and migratory routes, globally significant biodiversity hotspots. They are also home to millions of pastoralists and agro-pastoralists, many of whom contribute directly to national economies through livestock value chains, tourism, and ecosystem services. Yet these are always facing pressure in terms of climate and insecure land tenure and persistent narratives that label rangelands as degraded or even unproductive. And let me also just quickly talk to aspects of the support to the Africa's development agenda as it aligns to the IYRP. The Kampala Declaration and CAADP Strategy 2026 to 2035 emphasizes building resilient agri-food systems, mobilizing investments, and enhancing nutrition and livelihoods across Africa. IYRP complements this by providing a platform for policy dialogue and stakeholder engagement, as we are doing today, focused on rangeland governance, tenure security, and pastoral mobility, key constraints that limit pastoralists' contribution to national development goals. The IYRP momentum also then helps attract climate and development finance into pastoral landscapes, aligning with the Kampala Declaration's ambition to scale up investments in sustainable agriculture. In essence, IYRP strengthens and operationalizes the Kampala Declaration's objectives by ensuring pastoralist and rangeland ecosystems are recognized as strategic assets for Africa's food security, economic growth, and climate resilience. A deliberate message for IYRP would be that the International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralism offers Southern Africa and Africa a strategic opportunity to deliver on the Sustainable Development Goals, advance Agenda 2063, and operationalize SADC commitments by placing pastoral systems at the center of climate action, food security, and sustainable development. In conclusion, as we approach 2026, let us remember, supporting rangelands and pastoralism is not about preserving the past. It is about securing the future. A future where food systems are resilient. A future where biodiversity thrives along livelihoods. And where climate solutions are rooted in justice, knowledge, and lived realities. Let the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralism be the moment when Southern Africa's rangelands are not only seen but valued, supported, and sustained. This, I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moeng. We really appreciate that. And I am hoping that this web chat is really a beginning of those dialogues, is really a beginning of stakeholders engagement, figuring out who the stakeholders are. We might need to go to the rural landscapes of South Africa to really talk around rangeland management and all those issues, because there is a lot of work that is happening in our rural landscapes in terms of rangeland management. Okay, colleagues, please, as we asked, don't forget to put your questions in the Q&A as we continue with the presentations. And then after the presentations, we will make sure that our speakers are able to deal and tackle those questions for us, and also just discussions and comments and contributions towards what this initiative is really aiming to achieve and contribute towards too. So that will be really appreciated. I am Prof. Dansile Mavimbela, and I will present the next doctor to you, Dr. Andiswa Finga. Dr. Andiswa is a researcher at ARC, the Agricultural Research Council, Animal Production Campus within the Range and Forage Science Unit. Her research integrates participatory and technical approaches to support sustainable communal rangeland management and community-led rangeland restoration. She leads and contributes to national and regional international year of rangeland and pastoralist platforms, promoting locally driven solutions for resilient pastoral and communal landscapes in South Africa. She serves as a co-chair of the Eastern and Southern Africa Region Support Group. It is given an acronym SA-IYRP of the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. And she also leads the South African IYRP Support Group. She'll tell us more about the support group. She's also a steering committee member of the African Rangeland and Pastoralist platforms under the International Land Coalition. And also, oh wow, she's an additional committee member of the Grassland Society of Southern Africa. I think I'm gonna cut your bio here, Dr. Finga, because it's very long and it's very impressive, and I'm really proud to introduce you, my friend and my colleague. Please come in. Are you going to present from your side?
Thanks, Dee. I am going to present from my side.
Thank you. Please put up the volume because I know you are very soft-spoken. Please, if you may, just speak a little bit louder so that the participants can hear what you are saying. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I hope I am audible. Morning, colleagues. Morning to our Dr. Moeng, who's our representative at FAO, and our global chair, Igshaan Samuels, for the IYRP, and to everyone who has joined us today. My presentation will mainly focus on SA-IYRP Support Group, and Dr. Samuel and Dr. Moeng have given a background, but I'll still just go through it just a little bit, just to give context to my presentation as well. So I'll just share, if you give me a moment. Is it visible, Dee?
Yes, it is visible. If you may just
I'll
put
put
it
it as well.
on presenting mode.
Okay. Just have everything. Okay.
We are seeing your presentation mode.
Okay, let me just then do something with it.
Presenter.
Let me just stop.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll try again. I just wanted to go to slideshow mode. Is it on slideshow mode on your side? Or?
Yes, you may go ahead. Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Andiswa.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Small technical glitch. Okay, as I've mentioned, I will focus on the SA-IYRP support group. So SA-IYRP basically just stands for South African International Year for Rangeland Pastoralists Support Group. I'll give a brief background and the action plans. And yeah. So just a background on a global level of IYRP, as mentioned by my esteemed colleagues, the UN General Assembly approved 2026 to be the International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. And the successful campaign to promote the IYRP for the FAO Committee on Agriculture 2020 was led by the government of Mongolia with the support from the IYRP International Support Group, which is shortened as ISG. So the ISG then created regional groups that would lead communication and cooperations in their regions, with the Dr. Igshaan did present on the regional groups, and this was done with the support of the ISG, the FAO, the government of Mongolia, and the Mongolian National Support Group. So ISA, which is the Eastern and the Southern African Regional Group, is one of these regions, and as the name suggests, it then represents the Eastern and the Southern African parts of the continent. And I and Ken from Kenya are the co-chairs. So I just wanted to flash the revised themes because our action plans are basically centered around some of these themes. So there were themes that we had, which are the ones that we had initially selected, the ones that we deemed were most relevant for our country's unique conditions. And then these were revised last year, and not a lot of changes, but some changes in terms of the wording. So for the January theme, which is what we are here for today, the first theme is Rangelands and Pastoralists, a global overview. So in the previous themes, it was who are pastoralists and what are rangelands. And then the February theme is mobility, land and water security. March, livelihoods and economics. April, climate change and resilience. May, biodiversity and ecosystem services. June, sustainable rangeland use and restoration. July, services and infrastructure for pastoralists. August, indigenous and local knowledge, culture, innovation and innovation. Then September, benefits to society, which includes also sustainable livestock production. October is pastoralist women, November, pastoralist youth, and December, innovative solutions for a sustainable future. And now briefly a background then on the South African IYRP. So IYRP 2026 presents a strategic opportunity for South Africa to strengthen recognition, management, and sustainable use of its rangelands, which occupies 74.8% of the land surface. So that's how much the rangelands cover within South Africa, as much as they cover around 45% of the world surface. And in response to this, the South African IYRP Support Group was initiated in 2024 to address our country's unique challenges concerning rangelands and livestock farming. And the support group is made up of farmers, research institutions, government departments, higher education institutions, NGOs, and traditional authorities. And early in 2024, various regions received invitations to submit their respective action plans, and different countries within ESA region have been developing these action plans. And so we thought that given our distinct challenges and priorities, then we also need to ensure that the ESA action plans also reflect the specific South African needs and urgencies. So just to, I will not, but just to show the different collaborators, because I've mentioned that the SA-IYRP is made up of the government departments, NGOs, higher education, institutions. So these are basically those collaborators. We've got the National Department of Agriculture, provincial departments, Agricultural Research Council, GSSA, Grassland Society of Southern Africa. We've got LaRSSA. We've got the higher education institutions, UNISA, UKZN, Forte, and then we also have SANBI, the NGOs, Environmental and Rural Solutions, CET, and we've got Livestock Farmers Associations, and we're also intending to interact with MINTEC and MINMEC, and also South African Traditional Council. So this list is not conclusive. People are still welcome to join the South African IYRP as we take a journey to try and implement the action plans. I just want to also note that at this stage, the action plans that I'm presenting here are in a draft format. We're still consulting to finalize them. So the South African action plan then aligns with the objectives of the global IYRP. So then I will just read them, because as much as they are side by side, it does not mean that each one is directly linked to the other. But for the global objectives, the global objective of IYRP is to raise awareness of the environmental and socio-economic values of rangelands and pastoralism, strengthen partnerships amongst governments, pastoralists, academia, and civil society, promote sustainable rangeland management and pastoralist livelihoods through evidence-based policy and inclusive governance, as well as foster international cooperation in research, education, and innovation for rangeland sustainability. And so how then the South African IYRP National Action Plan align is that we're also looking at promoting context-specific recognition of pastoralists. I think also worth mentioning that pastoralists in our context are farmers, all farmers, communal farmers, smallholder farmers, land-to-farm farmers, commercial farmers. As long as it is farmers who use and manage our rangelands. And secondly, integrate. We plan to integrate indigenous and local knowledge system into formal land management and governance, advance sustainable livestock production, and further systems suited to communal rangelands, as well as support community-based conservation and resilience to climate variability. And also, our action plan also aligns with and aims to contribute to key national and regional policies and strategies. These are the ones that we have identified: the Conservation of Agricultural Resource Act, Livestock Development Strategy, the Preservation, which is a new act, Preservation and Development of Agricultural Land Act, VIDALA, National Development Plans, National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plans, Climate Change Bill, Land Care Program, African Union policy frameworks on pastoralism. And so the action plan actually from the themes that I had presented earlier, but as I've mentioned also before that some of these, as you can see that for the January theme, we still have who are pastoralists and what are rangelands. These were identified by the group that was formed in 2024, because that was the first order of the day, is that we chose themes that we deemed relevant for our own unique conditions, as I've mentioned, in South Africa. And we then chose this January theme, which encompasses everything that we are wanting to do under IYRP, who are pastoralists and what are rangelands. And Dr. Samuels is just going to unpack that a bit more in his when he talks just after me, as it is the January thing, and we wanted to just bring a South African context of who are pastoralists and what are rangelands. And then we've got an August theme that we also selected. The reason August comes before is the way that we had actually arranged them ourselves. So August theme, which is Indigenous and Local Knowledge, Culture and Innovation. And we have already done one webinar last in 2024 November on Indigenous and Local Knowledge and Culture. And then we also have a main theme, which is biodiversity and ecosystem services. And then a September theme, which is benefits to society, that includes sustainable livestock production. And under this theme as well, sitting as the group, we decided that it is a broad theme and we wanted to address it bit by bit. So we're still looking, in fact, all of the themes, we will be addressing them still. But with this one, we have done 3 webinars in 2025. And then we have, if you've noted, we've got a climate change and resilience theme, and we also have a women pastoralist and a youth pastoralist themes. But in our case, we decided that these are important and they can play an overarching role on all of these things. So whatever theme that we are addressing, climate change is there, as well as gender and youth roles. So I'll start with theme 2 and finish off with the last theme. There might be like some, yeah, I think I see a mistake at the time. But theme 2, which is Indigenous and Local Knowledge and Culture and Innovation, we have key messages for each one of these, as well as key actions. So for this theme, the key message is that Indigenous and local knowledge systems are central to sustainable rangeland management and must be equally valued alongside scientific approaches. Secondly, preserving and transferring this knowledge across generations is critical for long-term rangeland resilience and pastoral livelihoods. Pastoralist cultural diversity and heritage are assets that should be actively recognized, celebrated, and conserved. And the key actions under this theme is that we would like to document and promote traditional ecological knowledge in rangeland management, as well as strengthen intergenerational learning through storytelling events, webinars and workshops, youth mentorship, as well as cultural exchanges. And then with this theme, which is basically a theme for sustainable livestock production, which is part of the benefits to society. It is the September theme. Here the key message is that pastoralist traditions have contributed important value systems and cultural identities that have shaped South African society. So livestock production plays a significant role in rural economies, household protein supply, and meeting the growing demand for nutritious food in rural communities. And the key action here is that we want to promote veld management, fodder flow systems, and sustainable grazing practices. And this will then lead to ensuring sustainable livestock production, support the development of climate smart livestock system, and improved animal health management, and also facilitate capacity building through farmer trainings, innovation platforms, and knowledge exchanges. And then with the biodiversity and ecosystem service theme, the pastoral land management is essential for conserving rangeland biodiversity and maintain critical ecosystem services that underpin resilient landscapes and livelihood. And we know that I think Dr. Samuels had also mentioned how the management of pastoral lands, communal lands have been cited as management or mismanagement, but how it has been cited as contributing to the degradation of rangelands, which it might or might not be as accurate as it is said. And then our key actions under this one is to implement pilot projects for community-based rangeland restoration, as well as integrate biodiversity monitoring into land care and agricultural extension systems. So now I'm near, this is almost my last slide. As I mentioned, that I wanted to present this one lastly, because then I can move on to Dr. Samuel, who will then unpack it further in a South African context. So our message here is that sustainable governance and management are key to thriving rangelands and resilient pastoralists in South Africa. And then we want to address this theme through development of South African specific definitions and typologies of pastoralism and rangelands, and share these through video clips. So we have collected some video clips and would like to invite others to share video clips if they are interested to also be included. The video clips are basically just people sharing what rangelands mean to them. And it's with farmers, it's with academics, it's with practitioners, government officials. So anyone who is interested to share a video clip, we can then share briefly with them how we would like them to take those videos, and then we will compile those videos to tell a story of a South African context of rangelands. Yes, I've mentioned here that rangelands and pastoral are described and viewed differently by different groups and countries. And in South African context alone, these may have different meaning based on location, biome, land tenure, and farming system. And I just thought I would share that we had compiled a brief report from our first webinar. We can share I will share it on the chat, the link to access it on the Global IYRP website. And these are all our collaborators. And thank you. And I also just want to give a special thanks as well to LaRSSA. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Finga. Thank you so much. And you know, when you were talking, I saw those themes and I was like, oh, I love those themes. I heard you talking about partnerships, and I was like, yay, my kind of initiatives. And then I heard you speaking about integration of indigenous knowledge and local knowledge systems. I was like, yay, I am loving all these things. And also it will really be nice for the SA support group to be intentional about the supporting of community-based conservation and resilience to climate vulnerabilities and all of that. And I'm also thinking now that one will really need to be intentional about the role of gender, the role of the youth in all these different themes, and not just put it out there in black and white, and in reality or in practice we find ourselves not seeing the youth, not seeing the different gender being represented, especially women, in our landscape. So thank you so much for that presentation, Dr. Finga. I am going to bring back Dr. Samuels. Igshaan, please come back for your final contribution towards just the unpacking of the first theme, to really just give us an indication. And also it will be nice for us as participants to see what our roles can be in supporting this IYRP as an initiative for 2026. It's a lot that is happening in our country, in our neighboring countries. So it will really be useful to also engage the participants on what role can each and every one of us play. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ransile. Do you see my presentation in presentation mode?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So theme one, as Andiswa mentioned, is we're going to focus on the diversity and overview and commonalities between, or what comprises of rangelands, or what rangelands comprise of, and the diversity of people who occupy these lands. So this is a global map of, it's currently the one that we are using, but it's being updated because you can see Europe is a bit underrepresented in terms of rangelands. But this map basically just illustrates the diversity of rangelands that we have, and you can easily see that Africa, most parts of Africa are still rangelands. The area in white are forested areas, some the tropical areas. Not much livestock farming going on there, because obviously trees have sort of grown taller than the browse line, and it's difficult to get into there. So forests are in essence not part of rangelands. So these are the diversity. It includes, it's our, for example, if I should look at like that, it's the prairies, the grassland prairies, the North American ecosystems are there. That a lot of beef and buffalo, bison occurring there. In South America, we have these highland areas where you have a lot of these camelids, the vicuñas, the llamas, the alpacas. In the Asian islands, in the Tibetan Asian islands, for example, where you have a lot of the yak animals grown, or at least being raised. The Arctic, many people would have ruled out the Arctic, but it's a lot of pastoralism, particularly by Sami herders and others who are raising reindeer. And we'll also be celebrating the International World Reindeer Herder Conference in Mongolia at the same time this year. So in Africa, it's our savannas, it's our grasslands, it's our shrublands, it's the Namak Karoo, it's the succulent Karoo. It's these areas in the Sahel, part of the Sahara, that we can all constitute sort of rangelands. And this is just a nice picture map that shows the diversity of ecosystems or rangelands around the world. Okay, I have to use this one. Yes, so if we just look at back, if we just concentrate on the Southern African parts, it's most of our rangelands are classified as drylands. It's the arid lands and the semi-arid lands and the dry subhumid lands and other designated dryland types. So most of our rangelands in the region are drylands, meaning they are variable in terms of rainfall amount, variable in terms of seasonality, low rainfall, and a lot of uncertainty that where climate and resource availability is where those things are concerned. So in essence, the rangelands in Southern Africa are these variable systems that pastoralists have to manage. I have to use on this one. Sorry. So in South Africa, if I should just zoom into our country, it's the 74.8% that Andiswa was talking about. But obviously, all the rangelands are not the same. In the eastern part is a higher value rangelands. We can have up to 1 hectare per large stock unit, and you get to the western side of the country, the Richtersveld, we have to have more than 60 hectares just for one to keep one cow, because it's arid, vegetation is sparse, and there's not a lot of food around for the animals. So it's this whole diversity of grazing capacities that sort of are imminent in South Africa, and the white spots in between our built-up areas or the national parks. You can see Kalahari or Kruger or the Meerkat Nature Reserve or Richtersveld and so forth are not part of the rangelands because they are strict conservation area. So when we talk about rangelands in South Africa, we often refer to it as veld, but I'm quite sure in other South African and Southern African languages, we use other terms because rangelands is an English term, veld is an Afrikaans term, but we have a diversity of languages that we describe the grazing areas of livestock. So maybe it will also be nice to put in the chat, what you describe, what in your language, what are rangelands in your language, and perhaps we can do an infographic or something nice just to show the different languages that can be used to, or different words that could be used to describe rangelands in South Africa. So it'll be nice if you can put that in the chat. If we look at pastoralism and the spread of pastoralists around the world, so this is one of the IYRP partners. They're called the League for Pastoralist People. They are based in Germany. So they're trying to map, particularly using published work, but also those who make direct contributions, trying to map the spread of pastoralists around the world. And you can see there's a lot of pastoralists in Africa, particularly in the Horn of Africa, but Southern Africa is very well represented. And as I mentioned before, if you look at the bottom left, these are the 16 different species that are actually kept by pastoralists. You actually get, for example, in Southeast Asia, duck herding, people herding ducks. They also could fall under this category because the ducks use the rangeland. So it's not only about goats and sheep and camels, it's about this whole diversity of animals that we are talking about. And let's not forget other animals that we don't necessarily farm with, but there are companion animals, the horses or the dogs or the donkeys that accompany the herders, who are also playing very important roles in pastoralism. And so in essence, we want to celebrate the diversity of pastoralists and their animals right around the world. And it's difficult to give a overall encompassing definition of pastoralists, but if we focus on the commonalities that they all have, is the variable environments that they have to deal with, the uncertainty that they have to manage. They are part of nature, if I should put it like that. So, we often talk about they're working with nature, but they're actually much more embedded with nature, because what they do affects nature directly, and nature affects them directly. They're part of the ecosystem, if I should put it like that. Mobility is extremely important. If you don't move, particularly in variable environments, and if a drought comes or a flood or any other natural disaster, you are stuck and you could lose all your animals. So mobility is important. The whole richness of indigenous knowledge that they have, the way that they can describe, identify different plant species. They know what plant species are used for what in terms of ethno-veterinary practice or for medicinal use for humans. Tenure insecurity is quite common. within the pastoralist areas around the world. So that's one of the goals of the IYRP, to secure tenure. And also the fact that they not sometimes use one species of animals that they farm with. I mean, if you have, for example, a savanna, you have trees and grasses. It'd be nice to have browsers and grazers as well, so that you can make maximum use of the available forage. So we can concentrate on the commonalities that they have, and they are found on all the continents around the world, besides Antarctica. This is just some of the work that I've been doing. I've been working with the herders in Namaqualand, who are in essence pastoralists, who are, you know, an average age of 55 is not young, which meaning there's sort of the young people are not coming through as much as we want to, and also the female herders or female pastoralists, they're more or less only full-time pastoralists when their husbands die, which is something that we need to rectify, because they have a lot to contribute on their own, their knowledge and the skills and the care for the animals that they can bring to the system. So that is something that we would like to see change, and hence we have our October, November themes devoted to women and youth. And the crowning system that a lot of people are now starting to use, particularly on private farms, they use these kraals and to some extent can be used for restoration if managed properly. And the herd sizes vary, some people have 5 animals, but I can guarantee you there are some pastoralists, for example, in Namaqualand, who are more than 1,500 animals. So there's this whole range of subsistence to small scale, medium scale to I would say probably commercial level farmers. So they are not, one size doesn't fit all. And then obviously they do mostly keep small stock because of the environment, but there's a few cattle around in that area. So this is just a brief description of the herders in Namaqualand, but obviously pastoralists occur throughout South Africa. And this is not just the diversity, showing the diversity of the animals, and also to highlight that wildlife, particularly in Southern Africa, is quite part of many pastoral systems, particularly in your TFCAs, in your transfrontier conservation areas, where livestock and wildlife mix. And it's not new to pastoralism, but it is just to highlight that sometimes they co-occur with other land uses. And then obviously the multiple benefits, it's not about meat, people seem to think about, raising livestock is just about meat. No, it's about many other things. It's the milk, it's the fiber, it's the drought power, it's the genetics. The rangelands are the spaces where people go and look for carbon credits. It's the spaces where renewable energies are being put up. It's the spaces where mining wants to take over. It's if we want to do conversion, where do we go to first? It's rangelands. It's in demand. Where's our biodiversity? It's in the rangelands. So this is multiple benefits that rangelands provide to humanity. So, and these are some of the things that we need to celebrate when we talk about rangelands and pastoralists. So it's a diversity of things. It's not a one size fits all. So these are just the English words. We've done an exercise 2 or 3 years ago, maybe a bit more, to say what do we mean by rangelands, what do we mean by pastoralists, and these are just the English speakers that came up with many names, terms. So obviously what stand out is these cowboys and cowgirls that people say are also pastoralists, but I think a few South African terms are also in there. And then if you look at the rangelands, we know the word veld, you can see it on your right-hand side, it's there, but this Australian outback, for example, it's also rangeland. So these are just the English words, but obviously we have in pastoral lands around the world, there are thousands of different languages, and I think that is also what we need to celebrate. So I think, Dansile, that is it from me. And I'm happy to answer any questions, but yeah, so please join us in the celebration of the IYRP, and our website, IYRP.info, is everything that you want to know, that we spoke about, that you want to know, everything is there, and many more. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Igshaan, Prof. Dansile Beck here, and thank you to the participants that have given us the answer to your question, Dr. Samuels, of what is rangelands in our languages. We've got Sesotho, ki Makhulo, in Shivenda, ki Fuloni, in Sepedi, ki Mafulo. So I am hoping that the Ngunis will come in as well, and the Afrikaners and other languages. I saw we've got participants from all over the world, so we're not just the Southern Africa participants. So we'll really love to hear what rangelands are in your language. I think for now, what I want idelo in isiXhosa, what I want us to go through is Teresa, if we may just assist in seeing the hands that are raised and assist me in unmuting our participants that wants to give contributions, comments, and questions. But there is a question in the Q&A, which which is from, hold on, which is from Amy. Amy Schroeder, yes. Amy, I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your surname correctly. Please do forgive me. Amy is asking if there's any plan in place to support farmers that are affected by the current foot and mouth disease outbreak in our country through this initiative. Dr. Samuels, Dr. Mweng, Dr. Finger. I'm happy we also have Ms. Chwewu from the Department of Agriculture in our midst, and anybody else that is within the Department of Agriculture and maybe the DFFE as well to assist if there's any plans in place that is geared towards supporting our farmers in the country that are currently affected by foot and mouth disease, either in this initiative, which I'm going to ask an answer from the team, the presenters, and then if not, are there any initiatives in the country within our different departments that can be greatly useful? Thank you.
Thank you, Dancila. Maybe Skidibone is the best placed person to answer that because he's in the Animal Production Directorate and they were involved in the FMD processes. So I think she would be the best person to answer, Amy.
All right. I will hand over to her.
Thank you for the question, Emmy. Firstly, let me just start by saying this International Year of Rangelands is not a funded initiative by government. So we are trying to see how can we as South Africa work together to raise awareness on the importance of rangelands and pastoralists. So it's sort of like a call to action for all of us to work together. So going to your question on foot and mouth, yeah, there is support from the Department of Agriculture. On the 14th of January, the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable John Steenhuisen, announced that there's a strategy on management of FMD in the country. There's been vaccines that have been procured. So for now, what is happening is in the various provinces, the Department of Agriculture is in those provinces are working on developing or unpacking their own strategy on how they sort of institutionalize the national foot and mouth strategy. So it's going to be a 10-year phased out strategy, and so they're currently in the first phase of that. So yes, there is something that has been done for foot and mouth in the country. It's not through this initiative. As I'm saying, this is the International Year of Rangelands. We are trying to bring all the stakeholders together that are involved in the management, the use or are concerned, which is almost everybody in South Africa, with the use of rangeland resources. Thank you.
Thank you. May I just check with Amy? Amy, do you want to follow up on your question? Must you switch on your mic, perhaps? Please raise your hand or emoji.
I think that was great. Thank you for the answer. I'm good.
All right. Maybe Amy, you may also just check that email and just send your details if it's a specific case that you are asking your question, or it was just a general question. Thank you for that. I'm not seeing any more hands. Do we have any more hands or any comments? Or I saw Peter, I'm gonna put you on the spot as well. I saw Peter Botha. Can you just tell us more about the EWT initiative that they're doing around the SADC region? May you switch on your mic, and maybe it's something that can really be forming some partnerships and maybe learning lessons from what they are doing with the South African support team for IYRP. Peter?
Good morning. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity, and I like the momentum this is gaining. I'm an agriculturalist by training. I worked for national government for 20 years after breaking away into the conservation field. The Endangered Wildlife Trust is currently in a partnership with the International Crane Foundation, an NGO from North America. And we are working specifically in my project around crane habitat. So that looks at blue cranes, crown cranes, and wattled cranes. All three species occur in South Africa. And they are birds that solely reliant on highly functioning, biodiverse rangeland or veld, as we refer to it. Currently, the project, we've initiated the carbon offset project. The first round of credits was issued during December. That encompasses 90,000 hectares of rangeland across the Drakensberg. We're in the process of developing a 100,000 hectare biosphere reserve in the northern Drakensberg, parts of Mpumalanga, northern Free State, in that area. On the Kafui Flats in Zambia, we've got active staff working there daily. In Rwanda, we've got staff working there. In Kenya, we've got, and in Uganda. And the nexus for me, and the important part for us to understand here, is it is all done in collaboration with pastoralists. Pastoralists are our only gateway as a conservation NGO in realizing our objectives, the 30-30 commitments that everyone has been also part of, in achieving our goals for conserving sufficient land, meeting the requirements of these iconic species and indicator species. The beauty of it is, if we achieve that goal, we're creating resilience for our pastoralists in those rangelands and veld, giving them the opportunity to weather climate change, biodiversity increase, resilience in the landscape for what they are doing. And I feel strongly about the fact that in huge parts of Africa and across the globe, the impact that man has had on natural wildlife, in the absence of that, our pastoralists are the only tool and the only key we've got left to achieve our objectives in improving that rangeland. We've got a couple of tools. We've got fire that we can manage, and we've got livestock. The other tools are no longer there. They're no longer available to us. So for us working daily from the Drakensberg in communities with commercial partners across the country's borders, and I just came back from Mongolia end of last year, where we're initiating a project on a 200,000 hectare area there, looking specifically as to how we can take hands with pastoralists in their very nomadic society in achieving the same objectives and goals. So I'm terribly excited, and I will dig my way around here and, yeah, make myself a spot here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. And this one, we have gotten another member for the South African Support Group, Dr. Samuels. let us not lose sight of what Peter is sharing with us and have conversations outside this web chat. Moving forward, there's a lot that is happening. I'm liking his mentioning a diversity of partners and collaborators in this work. And I'm very tempted to ask, do we have any pastoralists in the call? If you are a pastoralist, please make yourself visible, switch on your camera, or raise your hand up and say, I am here, so that we can also, yes, yes, Peter, you are one. I want the rest of all of them to come through to say, I'm also one. So please indicate if you are one, so that we can also engage with you outside of this webinar. Dr. Moeng, Dr. Samuels, Dr. Fingler, do you want to reflect back to what Peter said?
From my side, and this one, please go ahead, because you're much more in
And I
tune.
was going to say that we will be, I'm excited to interact more with him outside this web chat and see how he can then form part of the SA-IYRP group. And yeah, it would be great to have him. I saw his message on here on the chat that there are no conservation organizations represented when he saw the list of those that we have currently. So it would be great to have him on board.
And just to add from my side, so last week we had the Africa Pastoralist gathering in Kenya, and the Southern African group decided to keep to have an opportunity to get together to contextualize, you know, what we want for the IYRP in a Southern African context, and we're going to maybe in 2-3 months' time meet in Eswatini. But one of the key things and what makes pastoralism quite unique in Southern Africa is not solely unique, but obviously some form of uniqueness there, is the issue of conservation, coexistence with wildlife. And one of the topics we thought about, you know, when we get together in 2 or 3 months' time, is the issue of TFCAs, is the issue of conservationists and having animals sort of mix in a way. So having the conservation sector on board and having the conservation sector talk about integration and you know, forming partnerships with people, I think that is quite, it's music to our ears, because that is what we are trying to achieve, that you know, pastoralism is compatible with many land uses. We just have to work around the challenges. So having people from the conservation fraternity on board is quite good. Thanks.
Thanks, Igshaan. Peter Botha, I have another Peter that's also made a comment, and I want to also give him a chance to just come in. So go ahead, Peter Botha.
Thank you very much. Yeah, with regards to the nexus around conservation, the EWT is an NGO of over 50 years old in South Africa, and other than the Big Panda group being the biggest in SADC, I mean, our work goes even further beyond that's just pure rangeland management, where livestock loss mitigation. We've got projects in the Waterberg and in the Northern Cape utilizing Anatolian shepherd dogs, that we are interacting daily with pastoralists in trying to mitigate stock losses due to predation. Trying to find that position where we conserve the last free-roaming cheetahs and wild dog, but also give the pastoralist the opportunity to protect his asset. So our experience goes pretty deep, and I can't overemphasize our reliance on the pastoralist and the rangeland out there. The sad reality is, from a conservation perspective, there's no land anywhere in the world left to go and create a new Kruger Park. The only people that we can engage in achieving our targets as a society is the pastoralist out there. Whether he owns the land or not, it is the use of the land that determine the ultimate outcome. Thank you.
I can feel the passion, Peter. I can feel the passion. I can see other people's going like this. I am hearing others that are in the office with me saying, So you are really spot on, and we really appreciate your contributions towards this. I see you, Ntambeleni. I am going to allow you to come in just after Peter Nel. Peter Nel, you just highlighted that you're supporting implementing partners, NGOs in communities through training. Do you want to tell us more about your program, please? Are you still with us, Peter Nel? Okay. He is not with us. So, Dr. Moeng, did you want to come in with the current conversation, or is it a new point so that I can maybe give to Ntambeleni?
No. Is the current conversation? Thank you very much.
Okay, go ahead.
And I was just wanting to indicate that, there is so much to share as stakeholders, and forums and sessions such as this web chat are actually intended for that, in the sense that the organizers, such as Dr. Samuels and Dr. Finger, might not be able to reach out to everybody, but then now the word has started to go out, and let us appreciate the inputs from Nel. But generally, there's a need for these partnerships because they will bring in the required impetus, the investment, as well as ensuring that these pastoralists that we all agreeing are important are not left behind at all in these global transitions. So I just wanted to add that the inputs made by Bondatenel are very important, and we are wanting more of those, because then there is also the element of ownership. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moeng, for that contribution. And Ntambeleni, please come in.
Thank you. Maybe to start from the conversation of Peter Neil, is that we have seen
Peter
that in terms.
Botha.
Yeah, Peter Botha. You can see that in terms of conservation and rangeland management, is that there is more focus more into protected areas, whereas most of the pastoralists, they will be mostly managing their livestock movements in the communal lands. And there's little, which I think is there, between engagement between maybe traditional leaders, because they are the ones who are in the forefront in terms of how communal lands are being managed and how other spaces are still been given to people in order for their livestock to still exist. And I think that's one of the gap which I can see that we can still capitalize in terms of interaction between researchers and other NGOs who participate in these, because communal lands are mostly managed by traditional leaders, which I think they will be one of our major stakeholders. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Ntambeleni. And I must say, you touched on a very sensitive issue, and an issue that is now slowly but surely being addressed in different platforms. As organizations, departments, and NGOs in most of our different landscapes and catchments around the country, we have what we call collectives. We have what you call partnerships, collaboratives, and all of that. And traditional leaders have been identified as key stakeholders and role players in everything, in land management, in issues of food security, of water security, and indigenous knowledge systems. So it is something that have been in the past being overlooked at, and now I am happy to say in all those platforms that I sit in and I participate in as SANBI, I see there's an intention that is very explicit in bringing in our traditional leadership, the communal areas that we deal with. We've got the work of strategic water source areas. There's a mapping of where traditional authorities are within the strategic water source areas. So there is a lot that is happening, and seeing that one of the themes for IYRP is around integration of indigenous and local knowledge. The key stakeholder there with immediately is the knowledge holders, who are the elders of the communities. The traditional authorities and traditional leaders are also those knowledge holders. So Andiswa and team, you cannot have that conversation without engaging traditional leaders. Thank you so much, Ntambeleni. Andiswa, come in before I take the questions in Q&A.
Okay, no, yes, no, I was going to say that he is actually spot on as well. And we are also, I think it is one of our aims to recruit more traditional leaders to be part of the team. Currently, we only have from the Eastern Cape, and ED was going to try and connect us, I think, with COPDA or Pastoralism, so that we can actually present our action plans and get more support and inclusion.
Thanks for that, Andiswa. And I must also just advise that please form part of the different platforms in the different areas. Peter Botha, you were talking about an establishment of a biosphere reserve in the northern Drakensberg. I will connect you with the Northern Drakensberg Collective, part of the platform where the different stakeholders engage on quarterly basis, so that becomes your basis and your foundation and your conversation starter with the different stakeholders. I'm going to the Q&As. I see there's a question from Johan Bothma. Johan, do you want to come in and just say your question out there? Because maybe I'll read it without the passion or the frustration in my voice that you might be having. Maybe you might actually do justice if you say it yourself. Do you want to come in?
Morning, thank you. Yes, I just want to know, in South Africa and obviously other parts of the world as well, but mining and unplanned settlement expansion especially often pose serious challenges to our remaining rangelands and the associated pastoral livelihoods and lifestyles. I just want to understand what strategies or interactions are there between all the relevant stakeholders to try and strike a balance between these often conflicting but necessary sectors, because all of them are reliant on finite resources and livelihoods or pastoral livelihoods often need to be re-established on, for instance, areas that have been mined out or rehabilitated, or where historical settlements have had an impact. I just want to understand what strategies are there to try and manage this this conflict. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Johan. I'm going to put Igshaan and then Gwen, if you're still here, and anybody that is within the mining industry and maybe one of the council members of LaRSSA to just come in and let's figure out. Let's share how we're dealing with some of these conflicting mandates and conflicting activities. Igshaan, PIDALP, what is happening?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a starting point.
Yes, the starting point is the PIDALA Act that give rangelands protected status. So any conversion of the rangeland, whether it's for mining, settlement, even this fortress conservation, it's not going to be that easy, because we have to understand, if you transform rangelands, you're affecting food security, issues. So the Pidala Act does give rangeland some sort of protection. So it's quite a long process, and to some extent, rangeland conversion into other land uses may not be allowed. So we've got legally protected status for rangelands currently. But it doesn't mean that mining or urbanization or other projects will cease. It is just that there wouldn't be this indiscriminate conversion of rangelands that we have seen in the past. It might be much more controlled, structured, and measured. The other issue is that for areas that have been converted, but obviously going back to rangelands such as mines or croplands, for example, a lot of pastoral areas had croplands in the past, but because of low and variable rainfall, people have given up planting weeds and oats, this sort of dryland cropping. So there's another way of converting those lands back to rangeland. So it's a concerted effort amongst all of us in terms of who are in the restoration space to ensure that. But also other programs that we need to focus on, just to limit this rural-urban migration, that maybe we should work towards identifying livelihood opportunities for young people within the rural spaces, and hence this is one of the main reasons that we have a theme on pastoralist youth. How do we give them the life that they want, but in a rural setting? Because when everyone moves to the city, it's more housing, it's more infrastructure required, and it might not be the optimum housing that they dreamed of when they go to the city. So it's Pidala does provide a bottom line sort of protection, but it encompasses all of us to do something about it, to ensure that pastoral areas are being used and opportunities are being created in the rural areas to limit these sort of urbanization and so forth. Thanks. I hope I answered your question, Johan. Thanks.
Thanks, Igshaan, for that. Johan is clapping, he's happy. Anybody who wants to also just give some contribution towards this? I had mentioned a few names. I'll see. Okay, thank you, Madam President. Come in, Gwen.
Thanks, Dansile, and thank you everybody for a fantastic session. I'm very excited to hear the level of engagement. My first exposure to this was when I joined Dansile on a learning exchange for the living catchments, visiting with traditional healers, efforts in Southern KZN and the Eastern Cape, and just the amount of work that's out there to be done is absolutely overwhelming. But I'm so glad and excited to hear about what's happening. And just from a LaRSSA perspective, over the last, 12, 13, 14 years of our existence, we've always tried to be presenting a platform where we can work with the drivers of change and disturbance and those who are keen to ensure that we've got functional, rehabilitated landscapes that are productive. We might not always be able to get back to the ideal pre-disturbance state, but we want to make sure that we've got productive landscapes with productive livelihoods. And I think rangelands and pastoralists are a key element of achieving these things. But it all comes down to doing what LaRSSA needs to do best, and slowly but surely we're getting there, and your participation in this platform today is critical. It's having representatives from all sectors together, having a discussion, highlighting topics that I think we need to explore deeper and further, build those relationships and collaborations. Having a legislated tool is a critical element in the whole protection process, and it is vital. But if we don't have active collaborations and partnerships with the people who, through their activities, are driving the changes and the disturbances in the landscapes, we are never going to achieve the best practice that is actually possible, or the equilibrium that we need to have. So yeah, I think my recommendation or my comment is that we need to continue the good work that started here. If there is a need for an in-person event or a deeper dive into a longer workshop to discuss some of the key topics, to maybe identify a student who can look into this as a master's and say, how do we go about coordinating the efforts that are happening here? How do we bridge the gaps between livelihoods on the ground and mining for argument's sake, which is a whole different type of livelihoods. The mining sustains large proportions of our economy, and we can't really do without it. And it's about how do we take the efforts. I know, Sanbi, you guys are looking at working on your guideline, mining and biodiversity. Where do the rangelands and pastoralists fit in here, and how do we take that conversation further? But yeah, it's up to each one of us in the room to bring our networks closer, to join in these multi-party discussions, and to identify key objectives that we want to achieve through collaboration. Hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Gwen. And I think we are slowly but surely moving towards opening the conversation to a wider range of stakeholders, because it's very easy to continue preaching to the converted and forget. I always say we need to talk to the unusual suspects, and I seeing the diversity of the people that are in this web chat today, and even the last web chat that we had through this LaRSSA platform. I really want to appreciate LaRSSA in allowing us into their networks, and also the other partners that have brought about their networks to come here, because we cannot continue talking to each other or to ourselves. At the end of the day, we want this diversity that I am seeing here today. There's another question in the chat from Bega Memela. Ooh, Bega Mara. Bega is talking about stock theft is one of the serious problems in rural communities. Are there strategies of dealing with it? Bega, do you want to come in and maybe elaborate more on what you are asking us here? Because my short answer to you before I give in to I'm gonna put Skidiboni from agriculture into the spot here to talk to us about strategies around stock theft and the legislation around that. But what I know in rural communities, some rural communities have what they call rangers, and through their grazing associations and all of that, in the different areas where the communities are taking care of their livestock through making sure that there's policing around amadlelo around the grazing areas. That's the short answer for me as a person that does not know how to deal with it. Because we have Gidiboni here, I'm going to ask her to give us maybe a more formal answer to your question. Before that, are you fine with me giving to Gidiboni, or do you want to say more about your question, Bega?
Thanks a lot, Chair, for giving me an opportunity. Yeah, I think you've covered.
Oh, I was Wagali Bega.
I'm not sure. Well, maybe it's my network here. But yeah,
no, it's not your network. You sound like you are in Mgodi. You are in Mgodini.
Because maybe it's because we are sharing an office here, so I don't want to disturb my colleagues. But what I'm saying, I think we have the right interpretation of my question. It's exactly like that, especially given that the presenters have pointed out that the rangelands are important.
Pega, you are not audible, so I'm just gonna hand over to Gidiboni to answer the question as it's written in the question and answers chat.
Yes, Bega, thank you for your question. Yes, stock theft is a serious problem, and it's a crime. It's a crime. So the South African Police Service, the Department of Agriculture, the provincial departments of agriculture in the various provinces are working together on this issue on how to manage stock theft. There's a rural safety strategy that has been developed, and one of the critical issues that it talks to is the issue of stock theft. But I think since we are here talking about pastoralists and the use of headers, as Dansile mentioned, is one of the important strategy that communities implement in order to manage stock theft. So it's really about how communities work together so that they're able to deal with stock theft in their landscape. And now with the outbreak of FMD, the department is working together with SAPS again to make sure that there's livestock movement control. So I think this then sort of help also to control stock theft. So from a legal perspective, from the Department of Agriculture, we have what we call the Animal Identification Act 6 of 2002. So this act aims to address stock theft by making it mandatory for all livestock owners to mark their animals using an approved identification system, such as branding and tattooing or microchips. So, for example, you are not allowed to sell your livestock when it's not branded. And if you are caught with a livestock that is not branded, and the police can also take your livestock. So that, in short, is how we are trying to deal with stock theft from a collaborative effort between the SAPS and the Department of Agriculture National and the provincial departments. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kidiboni. Pega, I hope you are sorted. Please indicate with an emoji or with a worried face or with a heart to say you may also maybe reach out to Kidiboni outside of this to discuss even further if you're talking about specific cases in your area. Thank you so much. Let me see what else. I don't see any other questions. Is there any Ntambeleni, come in.
Thank you once again. Maybe to emphasize on the question which Johan posted earlier in terms of we can see that in most recent times, based on rangeland management and also unplanned settlement, when the population is increasing, people are occupying different space, especially in communal lands. And we've seen how tragic it has been, especially in the most recent floods that we encountered in Limpopo and in Mpumalanga, where people who settled in unfavorable conditions, where there are wetlands, close to wetlands, or any streams, how they were impacted and how we encounter fatalities. And I think it's important that we emphasize that it's best that we can also engage with students so that they can have a research in terms of the background, the baseline data in terms of what are the strategies that maybe traditional leaders use in order to expand their areas, and what is the significance of our rangeland quality in terms of the health of the environment. Because we've seen that people might be occupying through those unplanned settlement areas, which is more healthier, and then the live out area, which is more not palatable to the livestock. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Ntambeleni. We really appreciate that input. It is now 11:25, colleagues, and we are aimed at closing the web chat at 11:30, and I need to give to Kidiboni closing remarks and way forward in the next while. But before I do that, is there any burning issue that one wants to bring forward before we close our web chat? I'm also looking at the Q&As. I don't see anything. Let me see the chat. Wiseman, do you want to come in with your points? I see you're addressing me very correctly as Prof. Please come in, Wiseman. Going once, Wiseman, you're not coming. Going twice. Wiseman, you are muted if you are talking. I see you are here. Okay. it is gone. I am going to thank everybody here for being with us since the beginning until now. We started at 76, we're now 63, which is not a bad number. And I really appreciate the engagements, the passion, and I think this says to us as SANBI and LaRSSA, we need more web chats of this nature. We need to really bring the different stakeholders into one platform and engage and allow this sort of conversations to happen. Thank you, Dr. Finga. Thank you, Dr. Moeng. Thank you, Dr. Samuels, for really giving us some insights of what this is, so that when we are going back to our workplaces, we really think about how can I, as an individual, contribute towards this International Year of Rangeland and Pastoralists, and also how can we as institutions, companies, and organizations can contribute and support the South African Support Group. So we really appreciate your time. Thank you, Teresa, Helene, the LaRSSA Council members. Thank you, Kiriboni. Thank you to all the planners that planned this web chat. And thank you to me for being such a great convener and facilitator. I really appreciate talking. And before I waste your time, I'm going to hand over to Kiriboni.
Thank you, Dee. And again, I'd also like to thank everybody who participated in this web chat. We are excited. This is a start of beautiful things to go to work on, working together as a collective to address issues that affect rangelands and pastoralists in South Africa. And I must say, for South Africa, we are very fortunate in this IYRP initiative, because we are represented on the global scale with Dr. Igshaan and Southern Africa or African perspective from Dr. Moeng. And we also have a support group for Southern Africa International Year of Rangelands. I would just like to encourage everybody to join us in celebrating 2026 as International Year of Rangelands and Pastoralists. We have a lot of stories that we can tell, so we need to put them out there. We need to see how we can work together and collaborate better. From government, the Department of Agriculture will be reaching out to other government departments so that we are able to, work together. As mentioned, the role of the traditional authorities is very important. So we need to reach out to COCTA so we can include them in this important initiative. We have various policy instruments which were mentioned by Andy, so I'm not going to mention them, that are in support of this initiative. And we also have programs that are supporting this initiative. So we need to see how we can work together and advance the cause of International Year of Rangelands in South Africa. And we will be circulating to the various stakeholders the draft action plan for South Africa, and see if we can get it approved as an official plan for South Africa moving forward. With that being said, I'd like to thank you all. Let's continue working together. Let this not be the last that we communicate with one another. And this was email, and Dansile's email has been shared in the chat box. Do reach out and let's work together. Thank you.
Okay, it is 11:30 and I would like to officially close this web chat and thank everybody for being here until now. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
I was